Hey, guess what? I made it to the Willamette Valley. Can you believe it? Somehow, I survived. What all did I have? I had dysentery. I had the measles. I had something else. Diphtheria, maybe? I don't even know. I got majorly sick 3 times. Everybody else in my family, even Zeke, I don't know who he was or where he came from. He just showed up in my wagon. Even he died. They all died. I made it the last third of the way down the Oregon Trail, all by my little lonesome, battling measles, dysentery, diphtheria, and I made it. I mean, it was rough, but I did it, guys. If you didn't know, you can still play the Oregon Trail online. There is a website, you can play it right in your browser. So yesterday, to refresh my memory on the whole Oregon Trail game, I actually played it, and yes, it's true. I survived. I made it to the Willamette Valley. I cannot say the same for the rest of my family. They didn't survive the trip, but you know, I felt very successful. All the same, a little lonely, but successful. I didn't think it was actually really possible to beat that game. I was inspired to create a Prairie Trail Tag based on my experiences on the Oregon Trail. The game, not the actual trail, because I've never done that one. I never will, or anything remotely like it, but it's fun to relive the experiences of those who did and admire them from afar. Now, by the way, this tag is going to be a little bit unusual. It's less a list of book recommendations, although there are a couple of those, but it's more about bookish life and bookish things. And I even included some nonfiction prompts in here, just, you know, for a little twist, a little extra fun. So here we go with the prompts. Number 1, stocking up and starting off. Every well-supplied wagon on the wagon train had to have their supplies in order, or they were never going to survive. Enough food to last down the overland trail, enough oxen to pull a fully loaded wagon, enough clothing, including winter clothing when you got to the mountainous areas on the west, closer to the winter time. So you had to have all those. You had to have tools and spare parts to repair your wagon. In the Oregon Trail game, you get $400 to stock up at the beginning. That was probably about an average price at certain points during the Oregon Trail years. I think some people spent significantly more than that, and some people maybe didn't quite have that much. I spent $390, if you're curious. Stocking up and starting off, my question is, if you were to go on a trip today, or maybe tomorrow, what 2 books would you be taking? Now, this is a time-dependent question, and it is all about the books that you currently have with you, that you are currently reading and or about to read, taking into consideration if you're flying on a plane or going in a car, probably not going to want to drag around some big books with you. So keep that in mind in your answer. I have 2 responses to this one, naturally, because it asks for 2. So currently I am reading Romancing the Bride by Melissa Yeagers. So I would bring this one because I haven't gotten very far, and I feel like I can make significant progress on a car ride or a plane ride with this. I mean, sure, why not? Train ride, I've done that too. And also I bring my Kindle when I'm traveling because you can carry a whole library in here, but the book in particular that I'm working on in my Kindle is Common Sense by Thomas Paine. And I'm currently working on the inspectional reading process, part of the How to Read a Book challenge. And so I'm reading through it thoroughly for the first time. I'm a little more than halfway through, so I am going to keep reading on that and hopefully get at least finished with the inspectional reading process. So those are the books that I would bring with me on my trip if I were to leave today or maybe tomorrow. And the second question is related to injury and disease, because if you embark on the Oregon Trail, even virtually through the game, you will find out right away that injury and disease will just hit you like a hammer over and over and over again. Like, it's gonna happen, guys. You're gonna get sick, you're gonna get injured. So you have to be able to handle that when it happens. So the question is, what health or wellness and nutrition book, lifestyle sort of book, has been the most helpful for you and kind of helped shape your approach to health and wellness? Maybe it's just me, but that is one area of nonfiction that I do read a significant amount of because it is a topic that interests me. Nutrition, particularly wellness, not medical things per se, just wellness in general. The book that I look to over and over and over and over and over again, The Practical Handbook of Homeopathy by Colin Griffith. And I picked this up used, I think at a thrift store a few years back, and I was recommending it to my sister because she was having some questions about homeopathy and dosing and what types of remedies to use. And I was like, listen, everything I know, I get from this book. Like, this is my guide. And so she was looking it up to see if she could get herself a copy, and it was actually quite expensive. So I did not realize what a treasure I had. I'm sure I did not pay more than a couple bucks for it. I use this all the time. In fact, just recently I had sinusitis, and I was able to find the correct remedy in this book to use, because the thing about homeopathy is that it's very dependent on specific symptoms. So specific remedies match specific symptoms. You can't have like one remedy that always works for sinusitis. Each time you have sinusitis, it's a little bit different. And as you go through the course of being ill, like, your symptoms will change a little bit. So you have to change the remedy that you're using. So it can be a little complicated. So a guide like this is essential to help you narrow down at least to a couple of options that you can try and see which one works best. So, which is what I did. I used 2 different ones, and between the 2 of them, it worked really well. So then for the next prompt is wagon repair. And again, at some point on that journey, it is a long, arduous journey. The wagon is doing a lot of work. It's traveling on bumpy roads that barely deserve the name road. It's going through open country. It's suffering a lot of abuse. So you're going to have to repair your wagon. It's a good idea to have some spare parts and some tools in order to do that. But my question for this is there a book that you own that is in very poor condition and or has been repaired, but you keep it for sentimental reasons or whatever other reason you have for keeping it? I would guess that most of us keeping a book like that would be for sentimental reasons or perhaps for actual value of it, monetary value. But for me, that book is this copy of Little Women. And look at that binding. It's, getting kind of threadbare there on the edges. And you can see the pages are brittle. The binding is getting loose in the middle as well. This is not something that I'm going to be reading from for sure. I'm just keeping it on my shelf because I bought this from a library book sale when I was a very little girl. It actually has the library barcode on the back from the Carroll County Public Library, which is the library system where I grew up. And we spent significant amount of time in that library when I was young. 2 or 3 of my sisters volunteered there and then later worked there. And I just spent a lot of hours in that library, browsing the books, browsing the music. At some point when I was young, they had a CD collection and I would borrow CDs and I think maybe even tapes too. Spent a lot of time in that library, a lot of memories, and I definitely picked up a few things at library book sales there. This being one of them, which I have kept ever since. 4, hunting. You're going to have to supplement that food stash with fresh meat along the trail because you're going to get pretty tired of the jerky and side of bacon or whatever it is that the salted pork, whatever, that you brought with you. And also it's going to run out. Eventually you're going to need fresh meat. So you have to go hunting. By the way, I was very successful in my hunting when I play the Oregon Trail game. I'm usually not. I'm usually I barely get a rabbit. But I went hunting a few times, and 2 of the times I got so much food, I couldn't even carry it all back because they only let you carry 100 pounds back. And I got like 2 bears and a deer or something ridiculous. Like, Yeah, was very successful in my hunting. Anyway, what authors or books do you specifically look for when you're browsing through used books? I'm not talking about going to the regular old bookstore and finding books that are brand new that you know you've been wanting, and not that kind of hunting. I'm talking about at a used bookstore where you never know what you're going to get. What are you looking for as you're browsing through those stacks of books at the thrift store, at the used bookstore, at the little free library? What are the things that catch your eye and you're like, oh, this is coming home with me today? And are there particular authors or genres or types of books that you are going to be getting during that time when you're hunting? So for me, as far as authors go, there are a handful of Christian authors that I am trying to collect their entire catalog. That would be Kathy Golke and Francine Rivers and Amanda Dykes. Also, I am trying to collect all of Ruta Sepetys' books because I know I want to read everything that these authors have written, and I also am probably going to want to keep them because I'm really going to enjoy the books. I do look for those authors in particular. For genres, I'm typically looking for historical fiction and or Christian fiction. Anything that catches my eye might end up coming home with me. Certain kinds of nonfiction sometimes, like I said, health and wellness catches my eye. Christian nonfiction catches my eye, but I have so many books like that. Like I'm talking 30 some books that I need to read on my shelf that I haven't yet. So I don't typically pick that up unless it's something that's really new or in really great condition. That's primarily what I'm looking for. I'm also looking for books that are on my mental TBR or an actual TBR. Although I can't afford to get super specific with that, but if there are like classic authors or other authors that I know that I want to read to zero and I see their books, I'll pick them up. If there's books that I've heard other YouTubers talk about and I see them, or authors, and they've been really popular, even if I haven't read them yet, I will pick it up at a thrift store because that's a good way to try an author, really cheap, even if you don't know if you'll love their books or not. You can pick it up for $1 or something like that. So, like, I know quite a few people have mentioned, I think Amanda is her first name, Amanda Wen. Like, I've heard a lot of people talking about her as being a really good author with stories that have a lot of depth, etc. So I saw a book by her in the used bookstore the other day, and I was like, oh, well, I would love to try her, so I'll pick this one up, for whatever it was, $1 or something. And question number 5, all the cooking on the trail is going to happen over a campfire. There's no way around it. There are just, not appliances in the middle of the prairie. So you are going to have to cook over a fire. Now, I'm going to need a little guidance for that. What is your favorite cookbook? Or if you don't have an actual cookbook, what about a website or a vlog or a TV chef persona that you follow and have learned a lot from? What is your favorite cookbook or cooking guide? And I have 2 to show you. These are recent favorites of mine because they're connected to my literary interests. And one is Jane Austen's Table that I picked up in New York at the Morgan Library when my husband and I went there about a year ago. And then Little Women I picked up earlier this summer in a little free library, but I had seen it when I went to Plum Orchard in Massachusetts a couple years ago, and I wanted to get it then, but I opted to use my spending money on other things, so I didn't, and I was thrilled to find this in the little free library. So I last week actually cooked something from each of these. This one had an oatmeal or porridge recipe. You know how Emma's father, Mr. Woodhouse, he recommends eating gruel. And so gruel is like a thin kind of oatmeal. So there was a recipe for that. It was a very thin kind of oatmeal. I actually reduced the liquid by 1 cup because it was so much liquid compared to the amount of oats. So I reduced the liquid by 1 cup. It was still way more than I ever used to make oatmeal. I prefer like a thick and sturdy oatmeal. But it actually was very good. And in the end, I was skeptical, but I actually really enjoyed it. In this book, I found a recipe for an omelet. Normally, I make the style of omelet with like dairy in it and cheese and everything. And it's, like the nice fluffy kind of omelet. But this was more for like a crispy, thinner kind of omelet. Like, I don't know if it's like a French style omelet or what. I don't know, but it was very good. And it was kind of interesting method of making it. Like you shake the pan and you simultaneously like stir the egg mixture with the flat of a fork, you know, like the fork tines flat and parallel to the pan, and then you stir it around while it gets solid. And then when it's almost like completely cooked through, then you roll it up. And it was actually really good. So I've made it another time like that, and I really enjoyed it that way. Those are two cookbooks that I've been enjoying lately. Then I have Fort or Town Restocking, because when you get to the fort, particularly the first one, I think Fort Kearney is what it is a lot of people stocked up there. Other forts maybe had more or less stuff available depending, but that one was a reliable restocking place. My question is, where do you most frequently purchase your books? And for me, that answer is 100% thrift stores. That is most of the time where I will buy a book. Most of my library has come from thrift stores. I also have bought things online secondhand through thrift books and Pango books in particular. Abe books I've purchased through as well. Every now and then I will buy on Amazon if I want something new and something specific that I need, but that's pretty rare. Even more rare, I will buy in person at Barnes & Noble, but most of the time, it's gonna be a thrift store. The seventh one is grief and loss. It was a huge part of traveling on the wagon train. In the book that I've been reading, Women's Diaries of the Westward Journey, the author noted that almost all of the women in their journals recorded all the grave sites as they passed them and counted them up. And there were many. And it was a stark reminder to them of the dangers of their journey. And it also was a way for them to remember the people who had gone before and to honor their trial and their struggle. It was a huge part of the journey. So this question is not to make light of it, but to respect the fact that it was all a part of that. And the question is, what book would you be most loath to part with if you were forced to downsize your library? And obviously, this is not on the same level as losing someone that you love by any means, but we're talking about books today. So we're going to talk about the books that would be the hardest to give up if you had to downsize your library. And I have a few to show you. This annotated Little Women by Louisa May Alcott and edited by John Madison is a huge book, and it's a chunky book. And it is not one that I haven't read yet, so I still need to read it. But again, this is another one that I saw at the Plum Orchard bookshop when we were there a couple years ago. But one, it was so heavy. I didn't want to deal with trying to bring this back home. And also it was, you know, being a large and nicely bound book with full color pages. It's a high quality book. So it was also reasonably expensive as well. I mean, totally worth it, but more than I wanted to spend at that point in time. So I promised myself that I would get myself a copy at some point. I was trying to remember if someone sent this to me from my Amazon wish list or if I bought it myself off my Amazon wish list using gift money. And I think that's the latter is what happened. I don't see a note. I try to keep notes if people actually purchase for me. But anyway, I love it. And I'm going to read this annotated version. I haven't had an opportunity yet, but I definitely want to. And that would be very difficult to give up. I actually have several copies of Little Women. I've already shown you one, and I have a couple of others. And it's silly to have so many copies of one book, but every time that I go through that shelf and, you know, I'm looking to downsize or purge or whatever, all of them have different sentimental reasons. So I'm hanging on to them for that reason. And then there are a couple of books that are really just hard to come by. It's not something that I'm going to see in a thrift store that is easily replaceable. Also, they have been gifted to me, either outright gifted or I used gift money to purchase them. So one is Jane Austen for Every Day of the Year, a charming collection of wit and wisdom by Tara Richardson. And so this is like a daily notes from to read every day from Jane Austen's letters or books or anything like that. So this is a beautiful copy of that. My husband gave me this one. We had seen it in a Barnes & Noble and he bought it for me. And this one was gifted to me. This is the Jane Austen Year, and it's put out by the her house in Chawton, the Jane Austen house. And yeah, there's the little note. This was gifted to me by Charlene, And it is just a gorgeous book, and it goes through the year. It's not daily, it's monthly, but it has different seasonal things related to every month of the year. Here's July. And then pictures. There are some recipes. There's some pictures of Jane Austen's letters and her writing and her manuscripts. Pictures from the Chawton House. Anyway, it is a gorgeous, lovely book. So that's the sort of thing that's hard to find. And also it's a little bit expensive, on the expensive side. So like I said, I'm normally buying books at thrift stores. So a book like this is not something that I would just spend my everyday money on. These are special books. And one other thing that falls in that category is my box set of the Tundra edition of the Anne of Green Gables series, which I love this. And I had a hard time finding this entire box set. It was a little bit difficult to locate on Amazon. It was hard to like hunt through their various Anne of Green Gables series to find it, but I knew I wanted these editions. These covers are amazing. They're all original artwork. These paper kind of collage designs that are then photographed and made into this cover, and each one is so beautiful. And I love these editions, and I love everything about the Anne of Green Gables series. I love all of it. So I used some Christmas money one year to purchase this set, and it is one of my treasured books in my collection. Number 8, and the next 3 kind of are a set of different types of books. So number 8 is River Crossing, a book that always refreshes and rejuvenates you, a book that you return to again and again. And everybody, 3 guesses what my answer is for this one. 3 guesses. If you guessed Jane Austen, you are right. In particular, Pride and Prejudice and Emma are my favorite by her that I have read many times, multiple times I should say. And every time I read them, I love them. I just love them. I find new things to enjoy about them. I have make new observations. I love all of her books, but these 2 in particular are my special favorites, and I would read over and over and over again. Number 9 is Desert Crossing. And this is the opposite, because you know the desert is the opposite of a river, right? What is one dry and boring book that you couldn't wait to finish, but you did? And the one I'm going to mention for this is Cecilia by Frances Burney, because that book was probably about twice as long as it needed to be. You could remove 25 to 50% of the words and still, have the story. And it would be a better story without all those words. Way too many words. But I stuck through it. I read it, and I'm glad I did. But I wouldn't mind reading an abridged version of it. I think that would be a much more enjoyable experience overall, because it wasn't a terrible story and it wasn't terrible writing. It was just too much of it. Too much. Number 10 is Mountain Crossing, a heavy book. Now, it could be heavy in multiple ways. It could be heavy in terms of page count. It could be heavy in terms of weight. It could be heavy in terms of subject matter or content. That Little Women book is very heavy. But the one that I am going to show you now is this one, which was also a gift from Miriam. This is Les Miserables. And this particular edition, it's like this leather-bound cover. Look at this. End papers. My word. Anyway, this is a lovely edition, and I did read from it, and it was very heavy. It's very heavy in your hand. I obviously did not carry this around and read it going around to different places. I read this at home. It was a wonderful reading experience, actually, despite its size. But it also fits for page count. I mean, this thing has over 1,200 pages, and it is heavy in terms of content. There is some very heavy content in this book. I mean, Les Miserables is the title, so gives you an idea. Anyway, that fits on all 3 counts. And the last one is to choose your ending. You have 2 options here. Option 1, you have died of dysentery. Sad. It's usually the conclusion of the game. For this one, you have to hand over the reins to someone else. And what better than someone who is new and fresh and full of life and enthusiasm and ready to finish this journey. And so you are going to choose 3 booktubers who are new-ish to the community and who have smaller-ish channels and maybe could use a little bit of love and encouragement, a little bit of extra subscriptions and likes and comments on their video. So share a newish booktuber that you've recently discovered, and 3 of them. Highlight 3 of them. Alternatively, the other ending is you have arrived in Willamette Valley. It doesn't happen to many people, but yay you. And here you want to choose 3 of your BookTube bestie friends who you want to be your neighbors in Willamette Valley. So choose 3 of them, shout them out, and let's keep this wagon train rolling. Of course, if you are watching this video and you want to do this prairie tag, don't wait for somebody to tag you, just go ahead and go for it. For me, since I actually did arrive in Willamette Valley, I am going to choose 3 BookTube besties to do this tag. No pressure, guys. So one of them is Alma, who is my co-host for the Prairie Trail Readathon, and the other is Cheryl at Candlewick Library, because she actually lives in Utah, and so she knows a lot about the Overland Trail history. And then Kelly at Kelly Reads a Lot. I am going to tag her as well. So no pressure, ladies, but if you want to do this tag, have fun, and let me know in the comments what your answers would be for any of these questions, and I will see you next time.